Alright then, let's continue. So, I basically have gone through all the common units as well as the Imperium Guard Infantry. That sounds a little bit loud, so I'm just going to lower it a little bit. So, the vehicles. Actually, before I jump into the vehicles and stuff like that, there is actually something I want to basically note. I went through basically looking to see where I could find some information about, unloading units basically one at a time, and basically found this. So, if you hold the control key and left click the phase transfer to unload those, units, you actually unload them one at a time. So that can be a useful way basically for using them to basically do damage without detonating them on top of each other. I don't think the phase transfer can be damaged, right? So pretty effective, I think. Right then, so the vehicles of the Freedom Guard. We'll start off with the Spire Bike here, I guess. And why don't let's jump in the manual here. So the Spire Bike, this all-terrain vehicle, is the cornerstone of the Freedom Guard ground force. Fast and inexpensive, it is able to tackle any type of terrain. Armed with double railgun, it is fairly effective against armor, but somewhat vulnerable to infantry. Now, I've always found the Spire Bike to be kind of useless in a way. Being all-terrain basically means you can go over hills pretty easily and stuff like that, which you just see me use a couple times. But it's basically sort of weak against enemy units are basically fine when you basically get up to them. The thing with the Spire Bike is that it's basically good for ambushing tanks and stuff like that perhaps. And that's basically where it shines. But if it's basically infantry or anything that's basically strong against it, structure, for example, defenses, it's not going to do too well against those things. So, useful, but not that useful. They're also very fragile, so they get blown up very easily. And let's go to right here, and we'll go Spider Bike. So you can see they're basically 500. They are wheeled, but they're a special type of wheel that can basically go over any type of terrain, so they're good. So yeah, light attack, reconnaissance, harassment. Spire Bikes are versatile and will become anyone's favorite. A sure unit in any attack force. Their usefulness is close to unlimited. Hit-and-run tactics should be utilized when using these. That's basically the thing here. With a Spire Bike, you want to use hit-and-run tactics to use them, or maybe you want to use them for reconnaissance, jump over hills to sort of drop off artillery barrages. I will say they're laudable because being able to go over any terrain type really fast is useful to get them where you need to go. But they could be better. Alright, so the skirmisher tank. And let's just jump to this one right here and go skirmisher. It's called a skirmish tank here, apparently. That's what they call it here. Okay, well, I guess it's not a skirmisher, but a skirmish. A little bit more expensive than the Spire Bike. These guys are basically very versatile against everything. I really love the skirmish tank's ability to basically just run around with his turret, hitting stuff in the air, and just running past him this to blow him up. So with utility against many different unit types, the skirmish tank is a well-rounded vehicle in many respects. Not only is it effective against both infantry and mechanical units, but it's also capable of firing on airborne targets. For this reason, a group of skirmish tanks can make an excellent base defenders and can tackle any unit that the enemy may throw at them. And indeed, the skirmish tank is basically very versatile in basically doing that. If it's basically air units coming in, they may not be the most effective thing against them, but they can at least damage them if they catch up goes closer to hit them. The thing about the skirmish tanks, by the way, is that they're basically more for skirmishing, I think, for the most part, because you can basically run them up to an enemy and they'll be able to attack even if you move past the enemy. as long as you have like their aggressiveness basically like high enough to basically like attack stuff or independence basically. I definitely really like the skirmish tank. For what they basically do and what they're basically offered, so yeah, they're fantastic. Alright, the Freedom Guard Tank Hunter. Now, I'll note the Tank Hunter is like an interesting like thing because it basically does like very good damage. So, powerful tank, good when paired with skirmish tanks. The drawbacks include lack of armor and range. And that's the main thing about the Tank Hunter. They don't have like very good armor, they don't have very good range. They're not turret eater. They do good damage to infantry too, but only if they're not in groups. Get overwhelmed pretty easily. The thing about the Tank Hunter is that basically they're like used to like, go up to say a tank down tank and like do a whole lot of damage to them all at once. Like, sort of like a melee type of unit, but not entirely like, forced to be melee. But the thing is that they're so like, close ranged, and because like, this game doesn't really benefit from like, ranged attacks very well, I find they're a little bit weaker as a result. So it comes off as being sort of mediocre. That's all I can really say about them. Alright, the Phase Tank. So, one of the most unusual vehicles in the Dark Reign, the Phase Tank possesses the ability to completely bury itself underground. Basically when you phase like your raiders and mercenaries, that's what this guy's basically all about. Which can be useful in laying ambushes for enemy units. This presents new strategic possibilities, though the Phase Tank is somewhat vulnerable in this state. It can still be attacked with reduced damage, but cannot move or attack until it resurfaces. So this is basically a track vehicle, the Phase Tank, and I basically go down here and basically read about it. You can see it's got like laser cannons, so that's its damage type. I've always found the Phase Tank to be kind of useless. It's not like it isn't entirely without its use. It can actually be very beneficial against like enemy buildings, but I basically found that it's never like really strong enough to really like hold its own against like the other units basically. It just doesn't know what it wants to be basically be the Phase Tank, so I can't really like say I like it too much. So deficient really is what this one basically is. Triple Rail Hover Tank. So the Triple Rail Hover Tank is basically one of the most costly units on like the field. Basically, so it's cheaper than of course than like the Fury, the Grendel Rider, and the Tacon Tank, but it's basically one of the more expensive units. It's still pretty damn powerful. The thing about the Hover Tank is basically it's like it's a platform turret that basically can hover over water for the Freedom Guard, which basically gives them like a very distinct like advantage with this like unit. And even though it's not like as powerful as say like the Tacon Tank or the Grendel Rider or like the Fury, it still packs a very good punch. So yeah, basically this guy can like shred mechanical units like easily with its like attacks. And I'll note basically it's also fairly effective against like infantry as well if like you can basically sort of keep on the move of them. But definitely a good unit. I feel for that one an excellent because even though it's like a very costly like sort of late game unit, you can still do so much with them when you basically pair them like well with like other units. So it does its job pretty well. All right, now we get to the transports, the Rat and the Rat Mark II. So we'll go here look for the Rat. Yoo-hoo, where's the Rat? There it is, the Rat, the Rapid Armor Transport. Now, the Rapid Armor Transport is actually very interesting because it's actually an amphibious vehicle, and one of the few basically in the game that can sort of like transport transfer over water with like wheeled like move type basically. The only type actually like that. I'll note this something about the transports in this game that I actually found very interesting, by the way. Basically, when you're killed like a transport over land, it jettisons all the like infantry outside like it's outside of itself, like it does in like Command and Conquer. So basically, you won't lose like units inside the transport when you basically kill like the transport. So that's actually really useful for like the rapid armor transport because you actually can like quickly ferry a bunch of units basically into a base, and if it's actually accidentally destroyed by something, it can like pop out as infantry to sort of like kill off like what's there. Now something to note about the rapid armor transport, by the way, that is sort of like worth knowing is that it doesn't actually have any weapons. This guy, So I'm not really sure, like, you know, if it's all that useful basically if it's all that. I'll note that the rapid armor transport, like, you know, does have a sort of camouflage ability, but I never really found that useful against, like, you know, especially against an AI, so it does its job, I guess, but that's basically all it really does, so it's just sort of mediocre. Now, there's also the Rat Mark II, by the way, and the Rat Mark II is basically sort of like an upgrade like Rat with, like, you know, laser on it, but that doesn't have its camouflage ability, so same price, but, you know, basically it's got like a laser just like a, you know, invaded troop transport for the most part. So strictly better. Basically, like, send it into like a base, being able to fire stuff, and if it doesn't get destroyed, then it does the same as the old one, just pops out units to basically kill stuff with. Is it strictly better than the Rat, though? That's the thing. I think what I'm going to basically do here is say, like, this is mediocre, and this guy's basically just deficient, because he doesn't have a weapon, this guy, so all he's good for is just transferring units basically across, like, you know, chasms and stuff like that, so it could be better, this guy. Alright, the Flakjack. Let's read down here a little bit. So, the Freedom Guard's only dedicated anti-air unit, the Flakjack is in fact a repurposed construction rig equipped with a pair of shoulder-mounted chaff launchers. While a good option for either defense or offense against aerial units, the Flakjack has no means of attacking opponents on the ground, meaning that it's imperative to have our units or structures nearby to protect it. Now, I'll note the idea for the Flakjack is like, you know, very interesting, but I feel like it basically overlaps a little bit with like the skirmish tank. Now, it does have the ability to sort of walk over, like, you know, all terrain types because it's a walker, and it also has like a long range than like a skirmish tank, but still, it doesn't really feel as very powerful. And I'll note by it as well, like, its attack type basically, like, you know, doesn't immediately do like all its damage all up front on units, so if the air units are basically moving around, the Flakjack's basically not going to really do anything to them, so I find the Flakjack to be one of the more, like, you know, more useless units of the game, so I have to basically throw them terrible, I think, so that's where it's just going to go. Alright, the Hellstorm Artillery. Now, I'll note by the way, artillery in this game is like this super powered, so that's immediately just going to go up here, by the way. But this is sort of talk about the Hellstorm Artillery a little bit. The Hellstorm Artillery fires a long-range area effect explosive. Its range is more than 4 times longer than any other unit. A battery of artillery is capable of single-handedly destroying an enemy base, but the vehicle is slow and lightly armored. So undefended, the artillery is fodder in close combat. So, a tracked vehicle, its vehicle speed is slow, its weapons is the artillery, the range is extreme, and the armor is medium. Now, something to note about the artillery in this game, and this is sort of like just throw it out here. If I go down to, like, you know, the artillery, like, you know, right here, you'll basically see it basically costs, like, you know, 1100, basically costs, like, you know, the Hellstorm Artillery. And this would be like versus like the Scarab down here, which is basically gonna be 1300 and basically, like, you know, hovers and like has that, like, you know, armored shell type ability. I think a lot of people will basically say the Hellstorm Artillery is a lot better than like the, like, you know, Scarab, because it basically is like cheaper to build, and you're probably not gonna use the hover ability all that much, or like it's like, you know, defensive capabilities. So it's just better just to have, like, you know, just a straight up, like, you know, artillery unit without like it's all extra features, so to speak. But something actually very much note about the Hellstorm Artillery versus the Scarab, by the way, just throw it out there. Even though, like, you know, I'm just gonna mark both these guys extreme. The Hellstorm Artillery actually fires faster, it's shelled, than like the Scarab's, like, you know, munition. So you'll actually, like, you know, see like them both fire at the same time. For example, I actually showed it off in like my Togren playthrough with like the last mission of the original Dark Reign. The Hellstorm Artillery actually fires and hits the target first before a Scarab does, which is actually a very important thing for, like, you know, getting up damage against, like, you know, fast moving targets, I guess. The Scarab might miss stuff if it basically moves out of the way, but the Hellstorm basically has like more chance to hit stuff that's, like, you know, not moving out of the way. And as well, it's also worth noting that the Scarab basically has like a sort of like damage over time effect, and I don't think the Hellstorm basically does. So basically, you launch like a Hellstorm Artillery, it's a building, and the building's gonna take a lot of damage to like that like initial shell. And the Scarab's not really gonna do like anything like damage over time against the building, so why bother, like, you're worrying about that? But if you basically, like, you know, fire against like infantry and stuff like that, there's a good chance that Hellstorm is gonna immediately hit. You know, if Hellstorm Barrage is basically gonna instantly hit the unit and basically do a whole lot of damage because he's killing them. And the Scarab, if it's like, you know, a small amount, they might just miss, like, you know, all the units because they move out of the way. because they're just too slow to get their ammunition. Now, Swordsman Scarab does have a damage over time, which is like useful against like, you know, units to like, you know, sort of mop them up a little bit, but you know, I probably prefer like the Hellstorm artillery better over like the Scarab just for that matter, but whatever. Alright, so that's basically all the vehicles for the Freedom Guard here. And thinking about it, I probably should put the Temporal Gate basically in here as well to sort of rank, but we'll get to that when I basically get around to it. I'll probably just like, you know, make a new icon and throw it on at the end. The Air Force basically for the Freedom Guard Den. We basically have access to the Skybike, the Outrider, and the Avenger. Now, I'll note by the way that I don't really think much of like the Freedom Guard sort of Air Force until basically the Avenger comes around. The Skybike I found to be like sort of like weak for like basically what JC does. It's basically a flying like, you know, spire bike that doesn't do a whole lot of damage to stuff. And if you basically like fight like a cyclone or stuff like that, then it's like this toast for the most part. And even against like, you know, like, you know, stuff that can basically hit stuff in the air, it's still gonna like, you know, go down pretty easily. So I never really found like the Skybike to be all that useful, and I perhaps would use like this Outriders to, you know, deal with stuff if I could as a result. So most of it bad and terrible. The Outrider, the Avenger, well, the Avenger is basically just an excellent unit overall, so just throw it up there. It's basically like a Sky Fortress that basically like, you know, reloads like a normal aircraft. So that can be fast to sort of get charges basically off to attack stuff, as opposed to a Sky Fortress. On big maps it might, you know, fail a little bit because you have to like, you know, go back to like your refueling dock to basically like, you know, rearm and send back in a fray, but you know, on short maps it's like, you know, still pretty effective. The Outrider though, I mean, it's not a terrible unit, the Outrider, but you know, I find like, you know, it basically has like, you know, barrage stuff of its missiles a lot to sort of like basically kill it. So it comes off as being sort of mediocre. Alright, let's just go like see the description basically of the stuff here a little bit. So we'll go find like, you know, well, these guys right here I guess. So the Skybike basically costs 800 credits, the Outrider basically costs 1400. And if I basically go look around for the Avenger down here, you'll basically see that it costs like, you know, 2200 credits. So pretty expensive these guys, but you know, they're still pretty powerful. Note by the way, the Outrider has 200 HP versus like the Avenger's like, you know, 115, so this is like a glass cannon air unit. It's basically like, you know, stated, but you know, it's still pretty damn powerful. I guess it's shot basically off for sure. Anyway, Skybike, 100 HP. It's a flyer. The Skybike is an aerial version of the Spire Bike, and features many of the same advantages boasting by its land-based counterpart. They are nimble vessels that can easily maneuver around the battlefield, and though they have less raw firepower, a lot less, than the Outrider, their speed allows them to quickly attack and fall back before many foes will be able to properly respond. I'll note by the way, if the Skybike actually had more firepower, I actually would like it a lot more, but it just doesn't have the firepower to really be useful, so I wouldn't want to borrow this if I could, but whatever. Here's the Outrider. It basically costs $1,400 credits, which is basically like almost double the Skybike. It's got like, you know, twice the HP and it's basically a flyer. So one of the two air-to-ground units available for the Freedom Guard. The Outrider is a slower of the two. And no part is like available to like the original Dark Reign. The Avenger is basically in the expansion, so it wasn't available early on. But anyways, so the Outrider is slower of the two, but more powerful. The major advantage of the Outrider, as is the case with all airborne units, is the fact that many units are unable to target them. They are one of the most expensive offensive units to produce, however, so it is important to refrain from using them overzealously. To be honest, I don't really think this is like too expensive because when you basically get down to like the Imperium units, like the you know, Cyclone and the like Sky Fortress, yeah, these guys are like really expensive to build. So I can't really say like the Outrider is basically like, you know, stupidly like, you know, expensive when these guys are a lot more expensive than them. But whatever. Something I should actually throw out by the way about this game, by the way. It basically has so like the vehicles and the aircraft are basically lumped into like the same sort of manufacturing like, you know, time frame. So if you build infantry, they basically are like on their own build set, but vehicles and like, you know, aircraft, they're basically on the same one. So you can't build like, you know, aircraft and like vehicles at the same time or get the same contribution basically to them. So that's basically something important to basically note, but whatever. Alright, so I forgot to talk about the Avenger here, I guess. So let's talk about them real quick. So yes, 2,200 credits, basically like, you know, midway between like, you know, a Cyclone, or not really a Cyclone, but you know, they're basically like, you know, this less expensive than the Sky Fortress, but you know, more expensive than the Cyclone. The Avenger is a glass cannon air unit that can deliver a massive payload capable of destroying almost any unit with a single volley. The unit comes with two significant downsides, however. Not only is its armor somewhat underwhelming, but because of the nature of its weapon it uses, the Avenger must be returned to the rearming dock after every shot. So this is something to note about the Avenger that I both like and hate about them. Because they basically have such a powerful shot, they basically usually instantly kill most of the stuff they basically attack. So if it's like mobile air defense or like, you know, units of the ground base want to kill, one shot from these guys basically usually wipe it out. And if it's basically like a base defense, like say like an you know, an air defense site, 4 of these guys can usually take it out without, like, you know, much issue, like of like, you know, being damaged. So because they're like your glass cannons, they just do so much damage that it doesn't really matter. So they're really, really powerful, the Avenger. And that's part of the reason I basically have them ranked. It's like, you know, fantastic, because they just have such powerful, like, you know, glass cannon ability. But at the same time, because they have to reload so much, and because, like, you know, they have such like long range, there is like issues basically like firing stuff. Basically, like this unit, you have to like, you know, sort of like, you know, be on top of the target and sort of like see it to attack it. And the Avengers basically fire at stuff basically like almost the edge of the line of sight. So it's possible if like you have even multiple, like, you know, Avengers going after the same target, they'll, like, you know, fail to all attack it because they basically, like, you know, lose the sight range of it. But that's like sort of like a minor nuisance to them, I find. So it's fine basically how they work. So yeah, they're still pretty fantastic. Alright, base defenses. We have the laser turret, we have the air defense site for the Freedom Guard, and we have basically the heavy rail platform. So I'll note something about basically about like the Freedom Guard's defenses that I find them very, very underwhelming compared to, say, like the Imperium. But I will say that the laser turrets are actually, like, you know, fairly decent for what it basically does. So although it's basically mediocre. The thing about the Freedom Guard's laser turret is that it's basically not, like, you know, longer range than like the, you know, Imperium's like plasma turret. But it does have, like, you know, more, you know, potential to be like useful to like the Freedom Guard, because the Imperial units basically don't, like, you know, outrange it basically a lot. The thing about the Freedom Guard's like laser turret is that basically it's able to like hit the plasma tanks for the Imperium, basically at the same range. So it can't be outranged by like the, you know, the skirmish tank versus like the plasma turret basically for the Imperium. So it's like a little bit more useful as a result in that regard. And you basically make use of like laser turrets to sort of like mop up infantry that basically, you know, get a little bit closer to like the, you know, Freedom Guard's like heavy rail platforms and stuff like that to sort of like, you know, take them down. And even though, like, you know, the like Imperium doesn't actually have a whole lot of infantry types, it's still, like, you know, effective basically for doing that. So yeah, it's a fairly like useful unit, this one here. The Freedom Guard's air defense site is still, like, you know, a fairly excellent thing as well. The thing about the you know, air defense site is it doesn't do like a whole lot of damage, but it does like, you know, enough basically to make it, say, like, excellent. So I'll throw this basically up here. One of the things basically note about the air defense sites basically in this game versus, like, you know, Freedom Guard and Imperium. The Imperium basically has like a far bigger like sort of air defense site, so it basically takes like, you know, as much space as a neutron accelerator defense or like, you know, heavy rail platform. But the thing about the Freedom Guard is it's basically a very much smaller one. So if you basically want to have like a bunch of heavy rail platforms and, like, you know, have like maybe a small, you know, little air defense site, you can basically do that and we'll like take up too much space. But it basically, like, you know, does, like, you know, have a, like, sort of like weaker potential to, like, you know, shoot down aircraft, as a result of like the fact that, like, you know, it's only got like one shot, like, you know, that basically, like, you know, fires like rapidly. But still a fairly excellent like defense, like, you know, platform. So yeah, it's still excellent. So throw it right there. The heavy rail platform. It's not a bad thing, but well, I'll note that base defense sites in this game are, like, you know, super powerful and stuff like that, but I think this guy can only be stated as like being excellent. The thing about the heavy rail platform is it basically has, like, you know, a couple, like, you know, turrets on top of it that basically can fire independently at different targets, and it can be useful to sort of, like, you know, get like different like sight ranges in units that are basically, like, you know, approaching it, but it's not perfect basically for, like, you know, hitting stuff basically, like, you know, around corners and stuff like that. But the thing about the heavy, like, you know, rail platform is that it doesn't really have like sort of damage potential that the, like, you know, neutron accelerator basically does for the Imperium. And you know what, I'm basically gonna knock this down to, like, you know, laudable, because it is a very powerful, like, you know, weaponist thing, but well, it is a base defense site, and base defense is just so powerful in this game. So yeah, I will keep it excellent, but it could be like better than like it basically is, I think. We finally made it to the final unit for the Imperium Guard forces I'm going to basically cover here, the Shockwave. So, the Shockwave costs 4,000 to basically build. It's basically got slow speed, it's tracked, the weapon is a Shockwave, and the type is a seismic wave. So, this is a special unit. It's basically used for like base destroying. It's good versus ground units and buildings, and it can't hit air units though. And who said earthquakes were bad? Well, not entirely. With the coveted Shockwave, shake the enemy to bits in seconds. Protect it all at all costs. Production time is worse than its power. Now, something about the Shockwave, basically for like the Imperium Guards, that it can like do a massive amount of damage compared to like the Rift Runner for like the the Imperium, and it basically costs like far less basically to build one of these as opposed to like, Imperium's like one. The downside though of the Shockwave is that this doesn't really instantly kill like the base structures like immediately like the Imperial's Rift Runner can. Unlike basically it takes like previous like Shockwaves to sort of take out like a fully upgraded like Imperium like command center, and most of it like upgrade buildings as well. Whereas if you basically do the Rift Runner on like one of those structures, it basically instantly kills it for the most part, usually. But the Shockwave is still useful against like base defenses, and that's primarily what we always use the Shockwave basically for, to sort of like knock out like the enemy's like defenses, so you can like mop them up with like your usual units. So yeah, the Shockwave is definitely like a fantastic unit, and I think it was really fantastic to be done of it. All right, well, that basically covers all of the like Imperium Guard's basically vehicles right there, and it only took me about 26 minutes to basically do so. Let's see how I can basically do the Imperium here, I guess. Alright, so a lot of the stuff I'm basically like gonna be covering is like gonna be like touching on like common ground. Like the Guardian here, for example, is basically just a raider with like the Imperium's like sort of mindset, I guess. Like not a lot different basically about between them, I guess. So let's read about the Imperium's Guardian. So basically it's the same cost as the Raider, same HP, it's a walker. Both in purpose and as pure statistical terms, Guardians are nearly indistinguishable from the Imperium Guard's Raiders. They are equipped with laser rifles and are most effective at using against infantry regiments, while certain vehicles also have difficulty dealing with infantry units, such as the Guardian. In general, the body and exterior are more well suited for those situations. So, I'll basically like Guardians basically not like they basically have the same sort of mindset as the Raider, basically using like sort of as cannon fodder, kill off like enemy like infantry with them. That's basically the purpose of Guardians, and they do like a fairly good job like taking out stuff. And if you mass them up well enough as well, they're getting good against buildings and stuff like that as well. So laudable. Not so laudable as the big guy over here though. The Reaper. Now, this is a very hot take, but I find the Reaper to be like, one of the most underwhelming units basically for what they basically are. But let's just talk about them. So, with higher hit points than many vehicles, the towering 8-foot-tall mechanoid Reaper is undoubtedly among the deadliest and most resilient dark range infantry. It is quite adept at dealing with various unit creatures native to Navai. That's a hot take, but no. But anyways. Which is not surprising given the fact that the Reapers were designed with a purpose explicitly in mind. So, not that Reapers do have a sort of advantage against like, Xenite creatures, but one-on-one, a Reaper versus say like, a Gant, the Gant basically wins. Like this week, here the Gant will actually like, beat a Reaper if it basically attacks it, but whatever. The thing about the Reaper is that they actually do a lot of good damage, but they basically like fire very like rapidly. And even though they have like a lot of like damage basically up front, it's not a whole lot. They sort of like wipe out infantry in like one shot, and vehicles basically take a lot of shots as well. So I find it to be like sort of underwhelming because it doesn't do enough damage basically to sort of like make up for the fact it's basically sort of like a slow walking unit, so to speak. It's not a bad unit, but it's just it feels weak for basically like 400 credits basically build these. And I'd rather have like say the Guardians basically instead of like these guys. So yeah, I don't think much of Reapers. So what can I say? do I want to say it's mediocre? Or efficient? I think I'll say it's efficient, because it could be, like, you know, more damaging or, like, you know, more threatening, I guess, but it just isn't, so, yeah. We get to the Bion next. I actually really like the Bion, so let's talk about it. So, these guys are a little bit cheaper than Reapers, and more expensive than Guardians. He's basically a walker. His speed is slow, his armor is light, but he's got a heavy plasma rifle and a lot of HP to basically work with, so he's decent. So, good versus infantry, light armor vehicles, and able to also hit aircraft once he wants to as well. So, powerful and multi-purpose infantry in small groups can take on some weaker vehicles. Has limited anti-air capabilities, but good against anything else. Now, I wouldn't use these guys basically against, you know, for anti-air purposes because they're just too slow for it. But if you get passing shots, then hooray for that. The main thing about the Bion is that they're basically, like, you know, slowly capable of, like, you know, walking up to, like, you know, units and stuff, and basic structure and stuff like that. And basically, like, sort of like just, like, you know, plow away basically with them while taking, like, you know, heavy hits in the process. I believe a Bion can take a full hit from the neutron accelerator without dying, though don't quote me on that. Basically, they might be, like, you know, less vulnerable than, like, you know, a Raider basically is, so there's at least that going for him. The only real disadvantage to, like, the Bions, they're actually slower than, like, Raiders and Guardians, so there is that going for them, but I mean, being, like, capable of, like, walking up and doing a whole lot of damage and stuff, there's, like, you know, another reliable unit for the most part, so let's throw right there. Alright, the Exterminator. You know, I don't want to say these guys are deficient or terrible, but they certainly aren't that great. They aren't laudable. So the Exterminator basically costs 500, like, you know, credits basically build, and it's basically a hover unit that basically means they can basically, like, do everything an aircraft can, but not to, like, to the same extent. So these guys basically have medium speed, actually pretty fast for, like, you know, a walker, but you know, it's fine. Their armor's light, and they have a roll lock delusional grenades. Its type of attack is basically acid, so these guys basically are used for, like, attacking vehicles. And it's the Exterminator that does not go for insects, but instead armor. The acid they use for vehicles is so quickly you won't notice in some cases. Extremely deadly against vehicles if used in groups. Extremely worthless against infantry and, like, structures. So I'll note that the Exterminator is actually pretty effective when you actually use it, like, you know, correctly, but they can also, like, do a whole lot of damage to themselves, and, you know, they're not really great in, like, our situations. They're basically, like, you know, a Fume Guard unit that's based on the Imperium side, because they're very, very specialized in what they basically do, but they definitely could be better, I think. So I'm just gonna throw them mediocre and just leave them right there. Alright, we got to the units for the Imperium Vehicles now. We have, like, you know, the Scout Runner and all this other stuff over here, so let's go talk about them. Let's go back here, I guess, to sort of, like, look at stuff here, so yay! I got the Amp here first, but that's fine. Here's the Scout Runner. So, this fast-moving hover vehicle is armed with a laser, and is fairly effective against infantry and armor. However, it's not very sturdy, and is used primarily for frontline and reconnaissance. So, I'll note that the Scout Runner, I actually, initially thought this, like, vehicle was very weak, but looking at hindsight, this is actually a fairly useful unit, actually, if you, like, you know, keep in mind that it's basically got a very long sight range. The thing about the Scout Runner is that basically it's used for, like, reconnaissance, as it basically says here. It's basically in its name, it's the Scout Runner. And that, like, you know, basically sort of, like, you know, helps out the Imperium, like, their, like, you know, sort of, like, reconnaissance abilities with this, like, you know, right here. Essentially, you can use, like, you know, Imperium tanks and, like, you know, stuff like that to sort of, like, you know, mop off stuff, but use the Scout Runner to basically sort of see stuff as basically ahead, and, like, you know, basically stay out of, like, harm's way of, like, you know, base defenses and, like, you know, other stuff like that. So while they are fragile and not very, like, useful for, like, you know, our purposes, they're basically there for, like, looking around and stuff, and be able to move away as needed. So, you know, it's not a bad unit for what it basically does, and I think we'll say it's laudable. Alright, the Plasma Tank. Let's go here. And oh yeah, this is the Suicide Zombie. I sort of already covered them with, like, the martyrs basically, but, you know, yeah, Suicide Zombie, that's basically a martyr right there. The Plasma Tank. So, these guys cost $600. They're 600 credits basically get. They're hover. Their speed is basically medium. They have heavy armor. I'm not really sure how heavy it is, but whatever. They got the 3000P Plasma Cannon. Their type is Plasma. and their task is basically to attack like infantry and light armored vehicles. So the main workhorse of the Imperium used a lot. Very, very balanced unit, combined with other units to go, they get the good attack force. So a note that I really like the idea of like the plasma tank, but I find it like, you know, it's basically not that useful. Basically, it's like, you know, a sort of like, you know, general utility tank, I guess we'll say. It comes off of being very mediocre. The thing about like the plasma tank is that they're like, you know, very much like the skirmish tank, but they have less range, so you can't like outrange like say like, you know, a laser turret for the Freedom Guard very easily with them. And even against like say a skirmisher tank or like, you know, a spire bike, they aren't really effective basically in taking them on. They are useful against like, you know, infantry and stuff like that, and like, you know, basically doing damage to like the light armored vehicles of like, you know, the Freedom Guard if like, you know, they aren't being attacked, but they just come off of being like a little mediocre to the Imperium tank. So yeah, let's throw right there. The Gemini tank is a little bit different though. Now, by the way, this is actually something I really want to like show off. I could never could figure out how, but these guys actually have like a mode change where they actually can change into like a fast mode and like a, you know, their normal mode. And let's read about right here. So the Gemini. So these guys are a little more expensive than like the plasma tanks at 700 like, you know, credits, and they require a Nexus to be built. But they have like, you know, twin lasers, and it can be like, you know, changed into like a fast mode. So fairly straightforward hovering tank. What makes the Gemini unique is the ability to morph into a fast mode where you deal less damage, have health halved, and move twice as fast. So I'll note this is something I note with the Gemini tanks, by the way, is that they're actually, I think, a little slower than the plasma tanks, or around the same speed. But when they basically like, you know, are moved into a fast mode, which they can like, you know, change freely into, they can actually like get really across like, you know, different like, you know, areas of the map really fast. And you know, it makes it for like a very interesting sort of tank here. I don't think the Gemini tank is like, you know, as like, you know, all that powerful compared to say like the plasma tank, but because it has an extra feature, you know, it's at least allowable for that purpose. So we'll throw it right there. The Tachyon tank. All right, here we get to the good stuff. So let's go here. The Tachyon tank. It costs 1500 credits, so 200 more than like the triple rail like hover tank. It has 410 HP. And note this basically because if I go to like the like, you know, triple rail hover tank over here, you'll see that it's basically only let's see here. Doesn't give me like the HP right here, so 410 HP right there. But if I look at the Imperial's like, you know, triple rail hover tank, it only has 200 HP. So this is actually something I know about like the triple rail hover tank versus like the Tachyon tank. The triple rail hover tank basically has like, you know, a fairly good like, you know, armor and like, you know, HP rating, but the Tachyon tank is basically just double the power of it, and it basically like, you know, will take like a lot of hits to basically go down. So the Tachyon tank is a significant upgrade over the plasma tank in terms of damage potential. The strongest tank available to the Imperium, in fact, though it cost also is greater than that of 2 plasma tanks. It has a built-in option to self-destruct, taking down any nearby enemies in the event that it's overwhelmed, though given the cost, this option is to be avoided at all costs if possible. I never really found the self-destruct all that useful, by the way, but just to throw it out there, the Tachyon tank is basically definitely my like, you know, one of my favorite units basically in the game. The thing about the Tachyon tank is that basically is like, you know, so durable that you can actually send it into the battle, and if it takes a little bit of damage, you can sort of like, you know, send it out to retreat and get healed up. Whereas like, you know, this isn't as possible for like, you know, triple rail hover tanks or other stuff like that. So it's just a super like powerful tank basically attack on tanks, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, fantastic unit right there. All right, the Fury. Let's talk about the Fury. So the Fury is basically a little bit more expensive than like the Tachyon tank, and unlike with the Tachyon tank with like its one Tachyon gun, it's got 2 of them. Plus it's got like a Tachyon laser as well. So $1,600 build, requires a Nexus. Now this is a heavy hitter. At long ranges, it uses paired guns to do heavy damage on par with a Tachyon tank. Anything that closes to point blank will come under fire for its rapid fire Tachyon laser. Plus it's a walker. Replaces a Tachyon tank. And I read about right here, you'll see that it says like, you know, it's got 4 HP, so basically very much on par with like a, you know, the Tachyon tank. With twin armor-mounted Tachyon cannons and a laser bore for close range targets, the Fury Battle Walker is perhaps the greatest weapon to Shadowhand. In addition to its intimidating armaments, the Fury is also quite mobile, being able to traverse hills and other rough terrain with much greater ease than a traditional tank would be able to. Now, I'll note by the way for like the context of like, you know, the Zeniths basically to fight, the Fury is actually a very good unit on like, you know, for a Shadowhand to basically use, but versus like, you know, the traditional like, you know, Freedom Guard units and like, you know, the like, you know, Imperium like units basically as well. I find Inferior to be like a very like lackluster sort of like platform, I guess we'll say. It's cool that there is like a very powerful sort of infantry to sort of like have, but I would prefer if like if perhaps like I had like the sort of fast moving like attack tanks as a result of like their ability to sort of like cover water and stuff like that, and like do other stuff, little stuff like that. Basically, the Fury is like a kind of slow because it's basically a walker, and it does like do a lot of damage when it gets up to its target, but it could be better, I think, this one for sure. So I'll throw an excellent because it's still a fantastic unit, but it could be better if like it's a hovering like attack and tank. I just don't find like it's useful to have like sort of an ambusher on a hill and stuff like that. So yeah. All right, the Emperor. Let's talk about the Emperor. The Imperium's version of a first aid, this lunatic cyborg fires darts into dying infantry units that boost the target's health to full, but leave the unit poisoned, so that its health will steadily decrease until the unit dies. The Emperor can also be used as an offensive weapon, bringing slow death to enemy infantry, which can be cured by first aiders, but whatever. Out of all the units based in this game, this is probably the most useless unit of them all. Like, I consider this to be more useless than like anything here. So throw it right there and let's be done with it. Alright, so, the Hostage Taker. I never really used the Hostage Taker, and it's basically only one mission in the entire game I think we can actually use it. The second, like, Imperium Shadowhand mission, but let's talk about it anyways. So, the Hostage Taker. Where are you? There it is. So, this guy costs 600, like, credits basically build. It's a wheeled vehicle. It's got medium armor, or it's got heavy armor, medium speed. Its weapon is the Vivisector, and it's basically a converter type of unit. It basically converts like enemy infantry into friendly ones like basically like kamikaze enemies. So, good versus infantry. Run over an infantry and wait a while for it to convert the enemy unit over to your side. But it's a walking ticking zombie ready to explode. Now, even though like the Hostage Taker is I haven't really used, I feel it is a unit I can actually sort of like comment on because it just feels like a unit that like doesn't really have a purpose based in this game. You basically have like the Shredder and like the Shadow Blade to sort of like kill off infantry with. So I rather basically use those as opposed to like the Hostage Takers or deal like enemy infantry. Plus like you have to sort of wait for the bomb basically come out of like your unit to like use it again. So there's that too. So yeah, it's a terrible unit I think. So let's just throw it right there. Alright, so we got ourselves the Shredder and the Shadow Blade here. Now, there's actually something to note about these units here, but you have basically the Shredder, which basically is like 100 HP, and you have like the Shadow Blade, which isn't listed here because they forgot to in this one here, I guess, but whatever. Oh well. The Shredder Mark II is how to basically call it here. So let's just read about the Shredder here first, and let's jump over to like their guide to basically read about the Shredder Mark II. So, just one of many examples of the Imperial's brutality and disregard for the enemies. The aptly named Shredder is exactly what it appears to be, a giant hovering saw blade. This weapon was naturally devised for anti-infantry purposes, or to put it more bluntly, it is intended to cut the Freedom Guard soldiers in half. With no ranged attack, it is vulnerable until it gets close. Now, I really do like the idea of the Shredder, but I think like other like RTS has done like close range units better. I think of like say like KK and D2 where like they have like their sort of like hovering like sort of like plaza type of like expanders and like short range type of thing. Like the balls of death basically like KK and D versus like the Shredder of Death and like Dark Rain. It's not a bad unit. It does it does its job for like what it's basically worth, but I've always found the Shredder to be like this is a very underwhelming unit. And to add like insult to injury, you also have like the emplacement here, the Shredder Mark II, which basically is like a Shredder of like more health basically. So why did it waste a new unit slot on this? So what can I say about the Shredder and the Shadow Blade? I guess they aren't like entirely like useless and stuff like that, but I'm gonna put the Shredder right there. I'll put the Shadow Blade right here. Maybe. Now we'll throw them both in deficient. The thing about them is that like it's just like, you know, other artillery that have such better like, you know, anti-infantry like units, and they do work, but I'll throw in like, you know, mediocre, because there's mediocre units is what they basically are. All right, the invader troop transport. So this is basically like, you know, the alternative to like the Rat Mark II over here for the most part. Let's talk about it. Where is it listed here? Right there. So, this one's armed with a laser rifle. The troop transfer can carry up to 5 infantry units at a time. It's a hovering vehicle, so unlike with like the tracked, like, you know, Rat, it basically can hover over the water, which makes it go a lot faster. Now, I'll note that infantry aren't important for like the Imperium, I guess. And, you know, they aren't really important for like the, you know, Free Guard ear, but I find that the invader troop transport basically is just superior to like the Rats because it can, like, you know, fly over water. I wouldn't say like, you know, they're basically, you know, anything special, but I'd just have to say they're mediocre for sure. Alright, let's see here. Next will be the mobile air defense, I guess. Let's go over them. You know, let's go back to manual to basically talk about it, so why not? So, the MAD. The MAD fires blade orbs at enemy units. Like the Free Guard's flakjack, it can't fire at ground units, and should be defended against, like, you know, land attacks. Now, it's really funny basically to say this, but I actually consider the MAD to be, like, you know, a very superior unit to, like, you know, the flakjack in, like, every regard. It basically has, like, I believe, a tracking attack, which basically, like, you know, will actually go after units to, like, you know, blow them up. And, you know, it does, like, damage basically up front as well, so it's just, like, you know, superior overall. I don't like the fact that it can't, like, you know, target, like, you know, ground very well, but, I mean, it doesn't really need to be, like, you know, awesome, so it does its job, it does it well enough. It's excellent. Let's throw right there. That's where it, you know, deserves to go, I guess. Alright, so next will be the Scarab. Now, I basically already sort of covered this because, like I said, like, you know, the Hellstorm Artillery is basically just a cheaper unit that, like, you know, basically fires, like, faster stuff and, like, you know, doesn't, like, you know, really care about its damage over time because of that potential. But this is still, like, you know, a fantastic unit overall, so we're just gonna throw it up here. And yes, the Scarab. The self-contained armored rail artillery battery. So it costs just as much as a triple rail hover, like, you know, tank. It hovers just like the triple rail hover tank. The only difference between, like, the Scarab and the hover tank is basically this one's slow, and, you know, its armor can basically change depending if it's in a shield mode or not. Now, something to actually note about the Scarab is I read online that apparently it can actually survive a Scarab's, like, or not a Scarab, but, you know, it can survive a shockwave to its face if, like, you know, it's hit by a shockwave attack. That's, like, something that actually sounds really interesting, but I'm not really sure it's, like, a lot useful to, like, you know, really care about, but it's something to know at least about, like, you know, the protection. It's, like, powerful enough to, like, you know, give it that much protection, shall we say. But anyways, yeah, basically it's just an artillery unit. It works just as like the other one, so not much more to basically say about it. Alright, how am I doing for time here? Well, these videos are basically getting pretty long, so I guess I'll just sort of like end this one right here and basically, like, you know, cover the rest of this stuff and a little bit more basically afterwards. Because there actually is a little bit more for me to basically cover if, like, you know, this. Why not? Let's just end it right here. And I'll see you guys in the third part when we get around to it. So, take care.